Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so very much for dropping by this video. This is going to be a little chit chat on the difference between authentic non-duality and nonsense, watered down, delusional, modernized non-duality, often called Neo-Advaita. A warm welcome to anyone who's new. You can find out more about me and what I do on this channel in the link that I've provided in the chat box and below this video. So I posted a video a while back about how Neo-Advaita can lead people to suicide and how it impacted me that way. And someone responded with a really interesting comment, which I'm going to read their comment and then I'm going to respond to it. The person said, I was on a brink of suicide and followed not only Rupert's teachings for many years, Rupert Spira being one of the most popular Neo-Advaita teachers on the planet. I also created a kind of my own artistical universe where non-duality played its part. But I was also very influenced by a lot of metaphysical philosophy, Derrida and Deleuze, and mathematics in a way. I had much trouble finding people who could really help me with my suicidal and self-harming tendencies, chronic migraine. I don't know, I guess they had chronic migraines as well. I mostly want to make the society responsible for leaving me in such a helpless state. This video, meaning my video, opens up something for me I didn't think of, and I'm thankful for it. But it also feels like looking for someone to blame in a world that's just chaotic and crazy, capitalistic, the foremost probably. I don't think I took Rupert's non-duality too seriously, but it influenced me for sure. I really like the way he used words. He's in meantime maybe more of a poet than a spiritual teacher for me. What he does is irresponsible. That's what I learned from this group. There's a Facebook group called Rupert Spira is Misleading People. But also there are so many reasons I could find for my suicidal thoughts. My question to you would be, I guess, how much obsession with Neo-Advaita are we talking about here in your experience? So amazing question, amazing feedback and questions. Thank you to that person. My heart goes out to you. It sounds like this person went down a quote neo-spiritual rabbit hole, and Neo-Advaita was a part of it, but not the main part. And first, I just want to clarify: Rupert Spira is really what I call a Neo-Advaita teacher. He's of the there's nothing to do since you're already enlightened. Like, don't even practice self-inquiry. It's beyond Neo-Advaita. So first of all, I'm just going to kind of respond a little bit to some of what they said. The person said, I had trouble finding people who could really help me with suicidal and self-harming tendencies. So what that hits for me is part of the trap of Neo-Advaita or Neo-Advaita is it's a problem that most people don't even understand. So it's very hard to get help for it. It took me a long time to even have the language to describe the problem I was facing. Like, just bear with. So if we think of Neo-Advaita as an illness, which it's really a mental virus, is my view of what it's a demonic mental virus, but that's another story in my view. But to treat an illness, you have to know what the illness is and to know what to do. And most people don't even have words for Neo-Advaita. Like, they just think, oh, this is non-duality. This is the truth. And so that's part of why I make these videos, is because most people don't even have words for it. I sure didn't, or even have a framework for what they're dealing with. So there's without a kind of framework, there's no real way to get out, much less to actually heal and recover from it. And then the person continues, but it also, meaning my video, the video I posted, it feels like looking for someone to blame. And there's some truth to that. For a long time, I did blame Neo-Advaita. And actually, it's interesting, in the last couple of months, my perspective has started to really shift. And I really see that, yes, Neo-Advaita is evil. Yes, it did great harm. And it actually really helped me on my spiritual journey. I've learned so much from it, and it was hellish. It was challenging, and you know, there were things I needed to learn, and going down the Neo-Advaita rabbit hole apparently was part of how that learning need to happen. I completely trust in a higher power, whether you call it God or consciousness or Allah or Christ or God the Father. I don't care, but I believe that everything that happens is guided by that higher power, and ultimately it always works out for the good. In the short run, it doesn't often seem like it. So I'm in agreement with this person that there was, and maybe still is, a little bit of blame, in me, and not taking full responsibility, not taking full responsibility for sort of, you could say, my part in it. Because not everyone who experiences Neo-Advaita goes so far down the rabbit hole. So I'm very grateful to, so the person's right in pointing that out. I sometimes do have the energy of blame. The person says, I don't think I took Rupert's non-duality too seriously, but it influenced me for sure. My question to you would be, is how much obsession with Neo-Advaita are you talking about here in your experience? So that's the thing, is this person didn't go so far down the Neo-Advaita rabbit hole. I went very far down, to where believing this world was a non-existent illusion, dream, believing that life had no meaning, believing that I didn't exist. I went pretty far down the rabbit hole. And so again, that's where the question is, not everyone goes as deep as I did. And of course, there are people who have gone even deeper than I did. And so that's where personal responsibility does come in. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So how did Neo-Advaita affect me so deeply, and why? So going far down the rabbit hole, I got caught in a mental maze of this, this idea that nothing mattered in life except self-realization. That was the way one of the ways it really impacted me. And I got caught in this loop, and there was like this ongoing war between literally wanting to be a renunciate, wanting to go join a monastery and have nothing to do with life, and the other half of me, which is like into poetry, into dancing, like loves Star Trek, loves sex and romance. Like I'm into Neo-Tantra. I teach dance. There's a very sort of passionate, embodied, lively being. But I was, so here's where I take some responsibility. Because I was trying to force myself into Neo-Advaita thinking, and I accepted Neo-Advaita thinking, that was pushing me to try to be a monk when I'm not. There's nothing wrong with being a monk if you're called to it. But if you're not, it's a disaster. It's like an artist, an accountant trying to be an artist, like it's just not, it's actually more brutal than that. It's just not going to work. It doesn't fit. So the other way that it really impacted me is I developed an addiction, really, to this dissociative high that comes from practicing self-inquiry. Like it really became an addiction to where from an addictive place, I didn't care about life anymore. Not completely, but I'd go through phases where, I would get high off self-inquiry and be like, I don't care about life. This is all I care about. And it was just escapism, nothing more and nothing less. And yes, I did have an addictive personality, and I still do. I'm in recovery for that now, thank God. That's one of the other ways it really impacted me. But I see now that that I was trying to use Neo-Advaita to escape life, to not have to grow up, to not have to become a functioning member of society, to not have to deal with trauma from my past, you know, uh, just like any other addiction. So that's one of the reasons it impacted me so deeply. Um, Now, so to get back to what I said about everything happening for the good, even even negative things. So coming out of Neo-Advaita, exiting Neo-Advaita, which I did a couple of years ago, and now I'm recovering from it. Here are the few of the positive things that I've learned from it, and why I'm actually now grateful that I went through it. It sucked. Please, I don't want to go through that again. But so first of all, is I've learned discernment. I've learned that most quote spiritual teachings are bullshit, and I've learned that some of them are harmful. And when I say spiritual teachings, I'm like, if you go into a New Age bookstore, like most of it, as far as I'm concerned, is, well, I won't say most. A lot of it's fluff, some of it's bullshit, and then some of it is straight up dangerous. That's what I've learned is, I used to think if something was spiritual, that meant it is all good. When quite the contrary, some things that call themselves spiritual and look spiritual are actually harmful and dangerous. So I have learned discernment. Um, and within that, I've also really learned to discern the difference between something that's religious and spiritual. Uh, if someone comes at me with any kind, so the easiest way I can say is, spirituality is always trying to convert or control people. And if anyone comes at me with that energy, even about something very pure, uh, I can just feel it. Like I know someone who they're really into the Bhagavad Gita, which I consider one of the purest books on the planet. But whenever they talk to me about it, they're always trying to manipulate me and control. Like, have you read the Gita since we last, you know, you really should. And it's like this yucky energy. And I'm exaggerating in my speech, but I can just feel it instantly. And that's the energy of religion, seeking to control and convert, which is really Neo-Advaita is just a nasty religion, in my view, also demonic. But um, the other thing is, one of the other great lessons I've learned is about giving my power away. And, there's many ways in which I gave my power away to these different Neo-Advaita teachers. And I've gotten much better at doing that and much more cautious. Like the moment someone says, I find out that someone's a spiritual teacher, instantly yellow flags go up, like proceed with caution. Because in my view, there's a lot of fake teachers out there. And I know there's a part of me that approaches spirituality in an unbalanced manner, which would be the last thing, well, not the last thing, but another thing. I realized that I was not very good at approaching life, much less spirituality, in a balanced manner. And Neo-Advaita took that and then just like went to extremes, like offers made me like 10 times more unbalanced. But I already had that predisposition. So I've learned, and this is actually an idea from traditional non-duality, traditional Advaita, just how important balance is and being grounded and taking care of responsibilities. And it's not fun, but as they say, adulting, becoming a mature, responsible adult. So, wow, 4 people live. Welcome. That's everything I have to share. If anyone has any questions or comments, wow, 5 people. We got a little Neo-Advaita recovery party going on. Well, I just finished up saying everything I want to say. If anyone has anything they'd like to share, any questions they'd like to ask, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Yeah, just in this moment, I just want to say it's an honor to be doing this channel, and that, that this is of benefit to people and people actually come by and watch it. It truly is an honor. And part of why I do it is from a sense of service. And that's one of the things I learned in traditional Advaita is, is the necessity to live a life of service. In fact, that's really considered a prerequisite in traditional Advaita Vedanta to dedicate one's life to service before advanced forms of meditation and before advanced philosophical contemplation, because it's very without that groundedness, it's very and stability, it's very easy to get lost, as I did, and as the person did who wrote the original comment that I responded to. All right, not seeing any comments. Thank you everybody so very much for joining in. I wish you a blessed day. Take care.